Maya stared out the window of her classroom, watching the two purple suns of 442C set behind the mountains. She was supposed to be listening to Professor Williams' talk about old Earth battles, but her mind kept wandering. The advanced military history class was boring today. Really boring. She looked down at her notebook. Instead of taking notes, she had drawn little soldiers and tanks in the margins. She liked drawing battle plans better than listening to lectures about dead generals from hundreds of years ago. Maya tapped her pen against the desk and sighed. "Miss, can you tell us why Napoleon lost at Waterloo?" Professor Williams asked suddenly. Maya looked up, caught daydreaming. He made bad choices." Some students laughed. Professor Williams frowned but moved on. "Poor planning and overconfidence, miss, remember that." Maya went back to her drawings. She sketched little stick figures hiding behind desks and jumping over chairs. It looked like a game of tag mixed with a war movie. She smiled at her silly drawings. The Terran Colonial Academy was quiet today. Most of the older students had gone on field trips to the mining colonies. Only Maya's class of 24 students remained in the building with a few teachers. The academy sat alone on a hill, far from any major cities. It was peaceful here. Too peaceful, Maya thought. She looked around at her classmates. Tommy was building something small out of paper clips. Sarah was reading a book hidden inside her history textbook. Jake was asleep with his head on his desk. Everyone was bored. Professor Williams droned on about supply lines and battlefield communications. Maya started drawing a new battle plan where the good guys used playground equipment as weapons. She giggled quietly at the idea of soldiers swinging on monkey bars to attack their enemies. Then the world exploded into sound. Emergency sirens started screaming throughout the building. Red lights flashed on every wall. The peaceful afternoon shattered like broken glass. Professor Williams stopped talking mid-sentence. Every student sat up straight, suddenly awake and scared. "Everyone stay calm," Professor Williams said, but his voice shook. He moved quickly to his desk and pressed several buttons. "This is probably just a drill." Maya looked out the window again. Her heart stopped. Ships were falling from the sky like silver raindrops. But these weren't human ships. They were long and thin, almost like crystals that had been stretched out. They glowed with soft blue light and moved in perfect formation. Maya counted at least 30 of them. "Those aren't our ships," Tommy whispered, pointing at the window. Professor Williams rushed to the window. His face went pale. "Lockdown protocol now," he shouted, hitting more buttons on his desk. Heavy metal barriers slammed down over all the windows. The classroom door sealed with a loud click. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red light. The building's computer voice started speaking in its calm, mechanical tone. "Building lockdown activated. All personnel remain in current positions. Military support has been contacted." "How long until help arrives?" Sarah asked, her voice small and scared. Professor Williams checked his computer screen. 3 hours, he said quietly. 3 hours. Jake was fully awake now. What are those things outside? Maya pressed her face against the small window that wasn't covered by barriers. The crystal ships had landed all around the academy. Tall, thin figures were getting out of them. They moved like dancers, flowing and graceful. They wore shiny armor that seemed to be made of the same crystal as their ships. "Aliens," Maya said simply. "Real aliens." The creatures were beautiful in a terrifying way. They stood 7 feet tall with long, elegant limbs. Their faces were hidden behind glowing masks, but Maya could see they had 4 arms each. They carried weapons that looked like sticks of light. "Why are they here?" Sarah asked. Professor Williams was typing frantically on his computer. "I can't reach anyone outside the building. Communications are jammed." He turned to face the class. "Listen carefully. We don't know what they want, but we need to stay calm and follow emergency procedures." Maya watched the aliens through the window. They moved in groups of 6, spreading out around the building. Their movements were too perfect, like they were all thinking the same thoughts at the same time. "They're surrounding us," she said. One of the alien group stopped directly outside their window. The leader pointed at the building with one of its 4 arms. Even through the barriers, Maya could feel its eyes looking at them. "Can they see us?" Tommy asked. "Probably," Maya answered. She noticed something strange about how the aliens moved. They never seemed to disagree or argue. They all moved at exactly the same time, like they were parts of one big machine. The building shook. Explosions echoed from somewhere below them. The aliens were inside. "They're breaking in," Jake said, stating the obvious. Professor Williams grabbed his emergency radio. Static filled the air. "This is Terran Colonial Academy to any military units. We have hostile contact. Repeat, hostile contact. We need immediate assistance." Only Static answered him. Maya looked at her classmates. They were all scared. Some were crying. Tommy was shaking. Sarah held her book like it could protect her. Jake kept looking at the door like something terrible might come through at any moment. But Maya felt something different. She wasn't just scared. She was angry. These aliens thought they could just land and take whatever they wanted. They thought a bunch of students would just sit here and wait to be captured. She looked down at her notebook full of silly battle drawings. Suddenly, they didn't seem so silly anymore. "Professor," Maya said quietly, "do you know anything about these aliens?" "Nothing," he admitted. "They've never made contact before." Maya nodded and closed her notebook. She stood up and walked to the window. The aliens were still out there, standing in perfect lines. They looked confident. They looked like they had done this many times before. "Maya, get away from the window," Professor Williams warned. But Maya didn't move. She stared at the aliens, studying them like she was looking at one of her military history books. Every army had weaknesses. Every battle plan had flaws. She just had to find them. The building shook again, closer this time. "They're coming up," Sarah whispered. Maya turned back to her classmates. They all looked at her, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. Professor Williams was still trying his radio. The adults weren't going to save them. "Guys," Maya said, her voice steady, "I think we need to save ourselves." The sound of breaking glass echoed through the building. Maya pressed her ear against the door, listening to footsteps in the hallway. They weren't human footsteps. They made a soft tapping sound, like rain on metal. "They're inside," she whispered to the others. Professor Williams had given up on his radio. He stood in the corner, looking lost and helpless. The other students huddled together near their desks, whispering prayers and trying not to cry. Maya quietly moved to the computer terminal that controlled the classroom security feeds. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. Her father had taught her basic computer skills when she was little. She hoped she remembered enough. The security screens flickered to life. Maya could see the aliens moving through different parts of the building. They flowed like water through the hallways, their crystal armor gleaming under the emergency lights. "Look at this," she whispered to Tommy, who crept over to see. On the screens, they watched the aliens work. 6 creatures moved down each hallway in perfect formation. They never spread out or broke their pattern. When they reached a locked door, they all stopped at exactly the same time. One alien would step forward and cut through the lock with its light weapon. Then they would all move forward together again. "They're like robots," Tommy said quietly. Maya nodded, but she was thinking about something else. She had seen this kind of movement before in nature documentaries about Earth animals. Schools of fish moved like this, flocks of birds, insects in a hive. "I think they're connected somehow," she said, "like they share one brain." On another screen, they watched the aliens enter the library where some younger students had been studying. The children screamed and tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The aliens surrounded them quickly and efficiently. They didn't hurt the kids, just touched them with some kind of device that made them go to sleep. "They're collecting people," Sarah said, joining them at the screens, "like they're gathering samples." Maya switched to another camera. The aliens had reached the second floor now, working their way through classrooms one by one. Every room they entered, they found more students. The pattern was always the same. Surround, capture, move to the next room. "How long before they get here?" Jake asked. Maya counted the rooms between the aliens and their classroom. "Maybe 10 minutes. Professor Williams heard this and finally moved into action. "Everyone, we need to barricade the door," he said. The students started pushing desks against the door. Maya helped, but her mind was somewhere else. She kept thinking about the aliens' movements. They were perfect. Too perfect. "Professor," she said as they stacked chairs on top of desks, "have you ever played video games?" "What, Maya, this isn't the time for." "Just answer me. Have you ever played a game against a computer?" "Well, yes, but..." "What's the difference between playing against a computer and playing against a person?" Professor Williams paused, thinking. "Computers are predictable, they follow patterns. People are messy, random." Maya smiled for the first time since the aliens arrived. "Exactly." She left the barricade and went back to the security screens. The aliens were on the third floor now, getting closer. She watched them move, noting every detail. They always moved in groups of 6. They always checked rooms from left to right. They always used the main hallways, never the side passages or maintenance areas. When they encountered resistance, they always responded the same way: surround and overwhelm. "They've done this before," Maya said to herself. "Lots of times." "What are you talking about?" Sarah asked. Maya turned to face her classmates. "Look at how they move. It's perfect because they've practiced it. They probably conquered other planets using the exact same plan." "So," Jake said, "what good does that do us?" Maya grinned. "It means they expect us to act like everyone else they've conquered. They expect us to hide or run or fight them the normal way." "What other way is there?" Tommy asked. Maya looked down at her notebook, still open to the page of silly battle drawings. Stick figures hiding behind desks, soldiers swinging on monkey bars, kids playing tag and hide-and-seek. "The fun way," she said. The building shook again. The aliens were getting closer. Maya could hear them moving through the walls now, their perfect, coordinated footsteps. Tap, tap, tap. "Everyone stop building the barricade," Maya said suddenly. "What, Maya, we need to," Professor Williams started. "No, we don't." Maya walked to the center of the room. "A barricade won't stop them. They have weapons that can cut through walls. They'll just break it down like they did every other door." "Then what do we do?" Sarah asked. Maya opened her notebook and showed them her drawings. "We play games." The other students stared at her like she had lost her mind. "Games?" Jake said. "Maya, there are aliens out there trying to capture us." "Exactly," Maya said. "They're expecting scared kids hiding behind desks. They're not expecting kids who fight back with games." She pointed to different drawings in her notebook. "Tommy, you're in engineering club, right? You know all the maintenance tunnels in this building." "Well, yeah, but..." "Perfect. Sarah, you're in drama club. You know how to move quietly and change your voice." "I guess, but Maya..." "And Jake, you're on the track team. You can run fast and climb things." "Yeah, but what does any of this have to do with..." Maya closed her notebook with a snap. "Everything. These aliens think like a computer. They follow patterns. They expect logical responses." She walked to the window and looked out at the crystal ships. "But humans aren't logical. We're weird. We play games that make no sense. We hide in stupid places. We make noise for no reason. We do things that would be completely crazy in a real war." The footsteps in the hallway were getting louder now. "That's our advantage," Maya continued. "They've conquered other species by being smarter and more organized, but they've never fought someone who uses chaos as a weapon." Professor Williams shook his head. Maya, I understand what you're saying, but these are just children. Exactly, Maya said, her eyes lighting up. We're children. We've been training our whole lives to be unpredictable. Every game of hide-and-seek, every prank, every time we got in trouble for being too loud or too creative or too silly. She grabbed her notebook and tore out a page. Quickly, she started drawing a map of the school. The aliens know exactly where we are because they've been scanning the building. They know there are 24 students in this room. But what if there weren't? What if we were somewhere they never thought to look? Where? Sarah asked, getting interested despite herself. Maya smiled and pointed to her map. Everywhere. The door handle turned slowly. The aliens had arrived. Maya held up her hand for silence as the door handle stopped turning. She quickly gathered her classmates into a tight circle and whispered her plan. Her words came fast but clear. Tommy, take 5 people to the maintenance level. You know those old steam pipes. Bang on them as loud as you can. Make them think there are people everywhere down there. Sarah, take your drama friends into the air vents. Crawl around and make noise. Sing, shout, whatever. Make them think we're ghosts. What about the rest of us? Jake whispered. We're going to play the best game of hide-and-seek ever played. Maya pointed to different spots around the room. Behind the big desk, inside the supply closet under the window ledge. But here's the important part. We move every 2 minutes. Never stay in the same place. Always be somewhere they don't expect. The door handle turned again, more forcefully this time. What if they catch us? Sarah asked. Maya grinned. Then we play tag, and we're really good at tag. The students started moving immediately. Years of playing games together had taught them how to move quietly and quickly. Tommy led his group to the maintenance hatch in the floor. Sarah and her friends climbed into the air conditioning vent through a panel in the ceiling. Maya helped Jake and the others find hiding spots around the room. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She sat down at her desk and started drawing. Maya, what are you doing? Professor Williams hissed from behind a filing cabinet. Making this look normal, Maya said calmly. The door exploded inward. The aliens' light weapons had cut through the lock like butter. 6 tall figures flowed into the room in perfect formation. Their crystal armor gleamed red under the emergency lights. They stopped when they saw Maya sitting alone at her desk, drawing in her notebook like nothing was happening. The lead alien tilted its head. Through its glowing mask, Maya could see confusion. This wasn't in their plan. Students were supposed to run or hide or try to fight. They weren't supposed to sit calmly doing homework. Maya looked up at them and smiled. Hi there. Are you here for the history test? Because I really didn't study. The aliens exchanged glances. Maya could almost see them trying to process this unexpected response. One of them raised a scanner device and swept it around the room. It beeped softly, indicating life signs. But the scanner was confused. It detected people in the room but couldn't pinpoint exact locations. The signals kept moving, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Suddenly, Tommy's voice echoed through the building's pipe system. Marco. From somewhere in the vents, Sarah's voice answered. Polo. The aliens spun around, weapons raised. The voices seemed to come from everywhere at once. What is happening? One alien asked another in their musical language. Maya didn't understand the words, but she understood the confusion in their tone. More voices joined in from different parts of the building. Marco, Polo. The simple children's game created chaos in the aliens' perfect communication system. Maya stood up slowly, still holding her notebook. You guys look confused. Haven't you ever played Marco Polo? The lead alien pointed its weapon at Maya but hesitated. She wasn't acting like a threat. She was acting like a curious child, which made no tactical sense. You know, Maya continued conversationally, you have really pretty armor. Is that real crystal or just plastic made to look like crystal? Behind the aliens, Jake dropped silently from the ceiling where he had been hanging like a spider. He landed on a desk, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and pulled the pin. White foam sprayed everywhere. The aliens' perfect formation broke as they stumbled blindly through the cloud. Their scanners went crazy, unable to process the chaos. "Fire drill," Maya shouted, and suddenly students appeared from impossible hiding places. They weren't attacking the aliens. They were running around them, past them, through their legs like children playing an elaborate game of Red Rover. The aliens tried to grab them, but human children were small and fast and utterly unpredictable. When one alien reached for Sarah, she dropped to the floor and rolled under a desk. When another tried to corner Tommy, he leaped onto a chair and vaulted over the alien's head. "This is not standard capture protocol," one alien said in its musical voice. "Nothing about this is standard," another replied. Maya ran to the computer terminal and started typing. She had been thinking about this part of her plan since she first saw the aliens moving in formation. Their perfect coordination was their strength, but it could also be their weakness. She accessed the building's public address system and started playing music. Not just any music, a random playlist that jumped from heavy metal to classical to children's songs to hip-hop. The sudden loud noise made the aliens cover their sensitive ears. But that wasn't the real plan. Maya had noticed something about how the aliens communicated. They used some kind of high-frequency sound, almost like whale songs. The mixed music she was playing included sounds at those same frequencies. She was essentially jamming their communication. Suddenly, the aliens weren't moving in perfect formation anymore. They stumbled into each other, unable to coordinate their actions. One alien turned left while another turned right. Their beautiful dance became a confused shuffle. "Sarah now," Maya shouted. From the vents above, Sarah and her drama club friends started their performance. They had spent years learning to project their voices and create sound effects. Now, they used those skills to create an audio nightmare for the aliens. Voices seemed to come from everywhere. Children laughing, singing, crying, shouting. Sound effects of footsteps running in all directions. The aliens spun around wildly, trying to identify threats that weren't there. Tommy's group contributed from below, banging on pipes and making the whole building ring like a giant bell. The aliens' sensitive hearing, designed to pick up subtle communication signals, was overwhelmed by the cacophony. Maya watched the aliens struggle and felt a surge of pride. These creatures had probably conquered dozens of worlds using fear and superior technology, but they had never faced an enemy that fought back with pure, chaotic creativity. One alien managed to get close to Maya. It raised its weapon, but before it could fire, Jake swung into view on a rope made of tied-together jump ropes from the gym closet. He kicked the alien's weapon out of its hands and swung away before it could react. "Tarzan!" Jake yelled as he disappeared into the smoke. The lead alien tried to speak into its communication device, but only heard static mixed with children's laughter. "Command! We need backup. The juveniles are not behaving according to protocol." Maya couldn't understand the words, but she could guess what the alien was saying. She grabbed another fire extinguisher and sprayed it directly at the alien's communication device. "Sorry," she said cheerfully, "but there's no calling for help in hide-and-seek. That's cheating." Professor Williams watched from his hiding spot, amazed. His students weren't just surviving, they were winning. They had turned their classroom into a playground where the aliens were the confused grown-ups trying to understand children's games. But Maya knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would adapt eventually. They would call for help or change their tactics. She needed to take the fight beyond this one room. She grabbed her notebook and ran toward the door. "Come on, everyone, field trip time." The students followed her, leaving the confused aliens alone in their foam-covered classroom, still trying to figure out what had just happened to their perfect plan. Maya led her classmates through the school hallways like a general commanding a very unusual army. Behind them, confused aliens stumbled through clouds of fire extinguisher foam, still trying to understand what had just happened. "Tommy, take your group to the chemistry lab," Maya whispered as they crept down the corridor. "Remember what Mrs. taught us about making smoke. Use everything you can find. Make this place look like a haunted house." "What about us?" Sarah asked, her drama club friends gathered around her. Maya pointed to different stairwells and hallways. "Spread out. Use every trick you learned in theater class. Voice projection, sound effects, acting. Make them think there are 100 students in this building instead of 24. The building echoed with strange sounds. Aliens moved through hallways that suddenly filled with harmless but confusing smoke. Voices called out from empty rooms. Footsteps seemed to run in every direction at once. Maya found the school's main computer room. Her fingers danced across the keyboards as she accessed different systems. The aliens had jammed outside communications, but they hadn't touched the internal network. She pulled up the security cameras and watched alien teams move through the building. They were starting to spread out more, breaking their perfect formations. Good. Confusion was exactly what she wanted. "Jake, come here," she called softly. Jake appeared beside her, slightly out of breath from running. "What now?" Maya showed him the security screens. "See how they move? They always check the obvious places first. Classrooms, offices, storage rooms, but they never think to look in weird places." "Like where?" Maya grinned and pointed to a maintenance shaft barely wide enough for a person. "Like the spaces between the walls, the areas under staircases, the gaps behind the big machines in the basement." She pulled up a building blueprint on the computer. "This school is old. It has secret spaces everywhere, places where kids have been hiding from teachers for decades." From the chemistry lab came the sound of Tommy's voice. "It's alive! It's alive!" followed by dramatic evil laughter. Smoke began pouring out from under the door. "Tommy's enjoying this way too much," Jake said. Maya laughed. "That's the point. We're not just fighting back, we're having fun doing it. That's something the aliens can't understand." She switched to another camera feed. In the main hallway, a group of aliens had stopped moving entirely. They stood in a perfect circle, apparently having some kind of heated discussion. Their crystal armor flickered with different colors as they talked. "They're arguing," Maya realized. "Their perfect teamwork is breaking down." From somewhere in the building, Sarah's voice rang out. "Oh, I'm a little teapot, short and stout." The silly children's song echoed through the halls, followed by other voices joining in from different locations. On the security screen, Maya watched the aliens spin around wildly, trying to locate the singers. The song seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Command, this is Squad Leader Vex," one alien spoke into its communication device. Maya had learned to recognize some of their words by now. "Request immediate tactical analysis. The juveniles are exhibiting unprecedented behavior patterns." The response came through heavy static. "All squads report similar problems. The small humans are not following standard capture protocols." Maya quickly typed commands into the computer. She had found the building's environmental controls. With a few keystrokes, she began changing the temperature in different rooms. Some became very hot, others very cold. She turned lights on and off randomly throughout the building. The aliens' sensitive bodies didn't handle temperature changes well. Maya watched them struggle as they moved from freezing corridors to sweltering classrooms. "Maya, you're evil," Jake said admiringly. "I prefer creatively tactical," Maya replied. A new voice joined their group, Professor Williams. He had somehow made his way through the chaos to find them. "Miss," he said, "I have to admit, this is the most effective military strategy I've ever seen. Where did you learn these tactics?" Maya looked up from the computer with a confused expression. Learn them. Professor, we didn't learn this stuff. We just grew up playing games. She gestured toward the security screens showing confused aliens wandering through smoke-filled hallways. Every game of hide-and-seek taught us to find impossible hiding places. Every prank taught us to think creatively. Every time we got in trouble for being too loud, we learned how to make strategic noise. From the basement came the sound of Tommy's voice amplified through the heating ducts. The phantom of the school is here, inside your mind. He was clearly having the time of his life. The aliens expect us to be logical, Maya continued. They've probably conquered species that fight with armies and weapons and battle plans. But human children don't fight that way. We fight with imagination. On the screens, she watched as more alien squads became separated and confused. Some aliens had taken off their masks, revealing faces that looked stressed and exhausted. They weren't used to chaos. Maya accessed the building's intercom system. She had one more idea, and it was either brilliant or completely insane. "Attention, alien visitors," she announced, her voice echoing through every speaker in the building. "Welcome to Human Games 101. Today's lesson, Advanced Hide-and-Seek with bonus chaos points." Throughout the building, aliens stopped what they were doing to listen. "The rules are simple," Maya continued. "You try to catch us and we try not to get caught. But here's the twist. We make up new rules as we go along. Human children have been perfecting these techniques for thousands of years." She paused for dramatic effect, something she had learned from watching Sarah's drama performances. "So far, you're losing. Game score, humans 24, aliens 0. Would you like to try the next level?" The response came immediately. Alien commanders throughout the building began shouting orders in their musical language, but Maya had been listening to their communications all day. She was starting to understand their patterns. "They're getting angry," she told Jake and Professor Williams. "Good, angry people make mistakes." She pulled up a new set of building controls. The school had an advanced fire safety system that could create emergency lighting patterns and sound alerts. Maya activated all of them at once. The building became a disco of flashing lights and alarm sounds. Emergency sprinklers activated in random locations. Exit signs blinked on and off like Christmas lights. Through the chaos, Maya heard something that made her smile: human laughter. Her classmates were actually enjoying this crazy battle. They weren't scared anymore. They were playing the most exciting game of their lives. On the security cameras, she watched alien teams try to regroup, but they kept getting separated by clouds of smoke, confused by changing lights, and distracted by voices that seemed to come from thin air. "Command," one alien squad leader called desperately, "request immediate evacuation procedures. These humans are not behaving rationally." Maya heard the transmission and grinned. "Jake, I think we're winning." But even as she said it, she knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would eventually figure out how to adapt to human chaos. She needed to end this game before they learned the rules. She looked at her notebook one more time, at all the silly drawings of stick figures and playground battles. Then she started typing the most important commands of her life. "Time for the final level," she whispered. Maya stared at the computer screen, watching alien commanders try to reorganize their confused troops. She could see the pattern in their behavior, even through all the chaos. They were still thinking like a military force, trying to restore order and coordination. That gave her an idea, a crazy, impossible, completely insane idea. "Professor Williams," she said quietly, "what's the most important thing in any military operation?" "Communication," he answered immediately. "Without communication, an army becomes a confused mob." Maya nodded and started typing faster than she ever had in her life. "And what happens when you flood a communication system with too much information?" "It crashes," Professor Williams said, then his eyes widened as he understood. "Maya, you can't possibly be thinking." That's exactly what I'm thinking. Maya had spent all day listening to the aliens' communication frequencies. Their hive mind worked by sharing thoughts and information instantly across their entire force. It was beautiful and efficient, but it had one massive weakness. It couldn't handle information that didn't make sense. She opened every program on the computer at once. Video players showing cartoons, music programs playing different songs simultaneously, math programs solving random equations, art programs creating colorful chaos on every screen. Jake, find every computer in this building and do exactly what I'm doing, she said. Open everything, play everything, make as much digital noise as possible. What's the point? Jake asked, but he was already moving toward other terminals. We're going to give their hive mind a headache. From around the building, Tommy's voice echoed through the ventilation system. Old Mac had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Sarah's drama group joined in from their hiding places, each singing a different children's song at the same time. Maya watched the security cameras as the alien squad stumbled through the cacophony. Their perfect coordination was completely broken now. Some aliens stood motionless, apparently overwhelmed by the sensory chaos. Others wandered randomly, no longer following any plan. But Maya wasn't done yet. She had saved the best part for last. She accessed the school's experimental AI system, a learning program that the computer science students used for their projects. It was designed to process and respond to human speech patterns. Maya quickly programmed it with every silly phrase, nonsense word, and random sound she could think of. Then she connected it directly to the aliens' communication frequency. "Hello, Crystal People," the AI announced in a cheerful synthetic voice. "Would you like to hear about our Lord and Savior, the flying spaghetti monster? Today's weather is purple with a chance of mathematical fractions." Throughout the building, aliens stopped moving entirely. Their communication system, designed to share rational thoughts and tactical information, suddenly filled with complete gibberish. "Why did the chicken cross the road?" the AI continued. "To prove it wasn't a rubber ducky. In other news, the square root of banana is 17 purple elephants dancing the tango." Maya watched on the security cameras as alien after alien removed their communication devices and threw them away. They couldn't handle the stream of nonsensical information flooding their shared consciousness. "Maya," Professor Williams said in amazement, "you just weaponized absurdity." "Humans are really good at being absurd," Maya replied cheerfully. Without their communication system, the aliens were no longer a coordinated force. They were just individual creatures, confused and overwhelmed, wandering through a building full of smoke, noise, and chaos. Tommy appeared in the computer room, covered in harmless smoke stains but grinning widely. "Maya, this is the best day ever. Did you hear me do my monster voice through the heating system?" Sarah arrived next with her drama group, all of them laughing and excited. "We turned the whole third floor into a ghost house," she announced. "The aliens kept jumping at shadows." More students appeared from their various hiding places. Jake returned from his mission with other computers, reporting that every screen in the building was now displaying random cartoons, math problems, and silly videos simultaneously. Maya looked around at her classmates. They were dirty, tired, and completely happy. They had turned a terrifying alien invasion into the best game any of them had ever played. On the security screens, she could see the alien commanders trying to regroup outside the building. They stood in worried clusters, pointing at the school and having urgent discussions. "Command, this is Ground Force Alpha," she heard one alien say into a backup communication device. "Mission status, complete failure. The juvenile humans have proven resistant to all standard capture protocols." "Explain," came the reply from somewhere above. "They do not behave logically. They use chaos as a weapon. They treat combat as recreational activity. Recommend immediate withdrawal and classification of this species as unsuitable for standard conquest procedures. Maya grinned and keyed her own voice into the building's external speakers. "Thanks for playing Human Games 101, she announced to the aliens outside. "Your final score was confusion 100%, success 0%, understanding of human children -50%. Better luck next time." She paused, then added, "Oh, and you might want to tell your friends that Earth children have been practicing these games for recess every day since forever. We're really, really good at them." Through the windows, they could see the alien commanders having what looked like a very serious discussion. After several minutes, they began walking back to their crystal ships. "Are they leaving?" Tommy asked. Maya watched the ships lift off one by one, rising into the purple sunset sky. "Yeah, I think they are." Professor Williams sat down heavily in a chair, looking stunned. 24 children just defeated an advanced alien military force using playground games and computer pranks. "Well," Maya said, closing her notebook full of tactical drawings, "when you put it that way, it sounds kind of weird." The building's communication system suddenly crackled to life as the alien jamming ended. "Terran Colonial Academy, this is military command. We're detecting the departure of unknown vessels from your location. Please report status." Professor Williams picked up the radio with shaking hands. "Military Command, this is Professor Williams at the Academy. Hostile contact has ended. All students safe. Crisis resolved." What was the nature of the resolution? Did you have military support? Professor Williams looked around at his students, all of them dirty and grinning, and looking extremely proud of themselves. "Negative, Military Command. We handled it ourselves." "How is that possible?" Maya took the radio from Professor Williams. "This is Maya. We played games with them until they gave up and went home." There was a long silence from the radio. "Please repeat that, miss." Maya looked at her notebook one more time, at all the silly drawings that had turned into the most effective military strategy she could imagine. "We played hide-and-seek, made funny noises, and confused them with cartoons until they decided Earth kids were too weird to bother with," she explained. "Turns out, aliens don't understand human children very well." Another long silence. "Miss," the military officer finally said, "I think you just made history." Maya smiled and started drawing a new picture in her notebook. 24 stick figures standing on top of a hill, waving goodbye to confused crystal ships flying away. "Maybe," she said, "but mostly we just had fun." Outside, the last alien ship disappeared into the stars, carrying with it a report that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The report was simple. Species exhibits extreme tactical unpredictability. Recommend avoiding all contact with human juveniles. They weaponize play. Maya closed her notebook and looked around at her classmates. They had saved themselves using nothing but creativity, teamwork, and the accumulated wisdom of every game they had ever played. "Same time tomorrow?" Tommy asked with a grin. "Only if there are more aliens," Maya replied. "Regular classes are boring compared to this." Professor Williams shook his head, but he was smiling too. "Miss," he said, "I think you've just proven that the best military strategy is sometimes no strategy at all." Maya nodded and started planning her next drawing. After all, there might be other aliens out there who hadn't learned the most important lesson about humans. Never underestimate the power of a really good game. The academy was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. It was the quiet that comes after victory, after proving that sometimes the best way to win is to refuse to play by anyone else's rules. And in a small notebook filled with silly drawings, a new chapter of military history had been written by someone who understood that the greatest weapon humanity possessed wasn't technology or strength. It was the ability to turn anything, even an alien invasion into a game.